Hey, we did it. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Comments. Are we back? Did it disconnect or reconnect? I don't know. Are we still live? Yeah, it looks like we're still live. Hi, everybody. We're here. So, okay, we just had some Wi-Fi issues. Good morning. Hi, everyone. Yeah, there's people responding. We had some Wi-Fi issues, so beg your indulgence if this doesn't endure, but we're going to do our level-headed best. We are here in such a hallowed, wonderful place. I'm joined by Cristian Schuszter, okay? And we are at
CERN.
The CERN. Like, what does CERN stand for? I mean, it's...
So CERN is actually a French acronym. It stands for Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire, right? So I probably butchered that, but it basically means the European Organization for Nuclear Science.
Yeah. Wow. And then, and this is not a new place. This has been here since the 60s?
Yeah, since the 50s, actually.
50s.
So CERN was founded in
1953,
kind of as a result of post-war physics being moved over to the US and Europe being like, yeah, we're falling a bit behind, so let's make a huge physics laboratory at Geneva due to its international organization, culture, basically.
And all
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And so here, Geneva is part of Switzerland, right next to the French part, right next to France,
Yeah.
right? But it's one of the French parts of Switzerland. Switzerland, like Belgium, is a country of many countries.
Yeah, exactly. Switzerland is a federal state, and actually, if you look at CERN on the map, if you open Google Maps now and you search for CERN, then you're going to be basically seeing that CERN is cut in half by the border, right? Half of the border is half of the CERN site is in France, and half of it is in Switzerland, and we actually have some special rules and laws and everything, which kind of allow us to go from one side of the border to the other with some special, diplomatic traits and all that.
Oh, I was going to say, because Switzerland isn't part of the European Union as such.
No, it's part of the European Economic Area,
Mhm.
which means you have free travel and free trade and everything like that. But in terms of laws and everything, they don't necessarily abide to the European Union laws because they're not part of it. Yeah.
Well, and plus, even if you're part of the other member countries of the European Economic Area, probably don't like it if you transport nuclear material across the border.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some special exemptions for that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah. We don't really transport that much nuclear. Wait.
Motion sensor. Okay, we're good.
There we go. Yeah. This is going to be fun.
They save electricity here because they need it, because they do a lot of things with electricity. We'll talk about that in a second. So okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so basically the thing is we don't really transport that much nuclear material. There are some things which are radioactive, which come out of the accelerator, because when the accelerator runs, the electronic equipment which is down there, sometimes it gets radiated, so you need to measure it, and if it's over a certain threshold, it needs to be disposed in a clean way.
Oh,
right?
Of course. Yeah. What is a clean way?
So basically it's put in a barrel and shipped somewhere really far away where nobody lives in order to
Space.
Touch it, lick it. No, actually, it's probably some
Antarctica
islands or some atolls, somewhere in the middle of the Pacific, which nobody knows about. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I love CERN. I've been here once. I came here in 2017 for the very first. We are live from Voxxed Days CERN, a conference. Yes, thank you. And you're one of the organizers, yeah?
Yeah, I'm one of the co-organizers, basically. Me and my, let's say, boss, basically, we're working in the same team, and I was a participant in Voxxed Days CERN in 2019. And then I said, hey, why not make another edition, right?
Yeah.
The pandemic passed, so then we decided, okay, maybe we should start looking into that, especially now because we have a new conference center here called the Science Gateway. And
that's where we are now, in the broom closet, basically.
Yeah, basically.
This is a beautiful building, brand new building, right? Last year completed?
Yes, they opened it on the 7th of October last year. So it's basically a 3-month-old building. Some things still need fixing, but most of the stuff that's here, it's brand new and really exciting.
It's got that new
building smell.
Yeah. Okay, so CERN. So basically, you have this. The thing I think maybe most people will know about is the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah.
Which is where you smash particles together and.
Exactly. It's the largest particle accelerator in the world so far. The radius of the thing is 27 kilometers, right? We have super cooled magnets, the strongest vacuum on the planet, and the strongest cryogenic systems on the planet as well. We need to cool everything almost to 0 Kelvin, right? We actually cool stuff to 4 Kelvin in the magnets, which means around minus 268 degrees Celsius.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So freeze a finger instantly and lose it kind of cold.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So that's really, really cold. That's properly freezing. That's a old school superconductor, right?
Exactly. That's the whole idea, because we're passing 13,000 amps through those magnets, and we're creating a field of 13 Tesla. For those of you that know what that means, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's actually the strongest magnetic fields that we have on Earth. And what we do with them, then we use the magnets in two different ways, either for detection or for pushing the particles along the pipe, because you don't want it to pass through the wall, right? You want it to keep going in a circle, right?
Amazing. And the whole point of this is what? Like we're doing. We have this 27-kilometer long racetrack for particles, for
Protons,
atoms and
usually.
protons. You can't even see them; they're so small. But it takes 27 Earth kilometers of space just to accelerate them fast enough so they get near light speed. So that hopefully two of them will errantly collide.
Exactly. What we do usually, we create a bunch of protons, which gets pushed through the circle, right? 13,000 times a second they pass through the same point, right? And when we're ready, when we achieve an energy level which is high enough, then basically we collide them in 4 special spots, which are called detectors, right? We have 4 detectors on the LHC. We have Atlas, CMS, LHCb, and Alice. And each of them have a special way of being constructed. They belong to different collaborations and so on. And basically what happens is, out of the billions of particles which are in a bunch of particles that collides with another one, around 40 of them actually hit. Everything else is empty space, right?
Wow. 40. Oh, wow. Okay. So, and then what do we get from that?
Yeah. So what happens?
Because this is not cheap, right? This costs more than €1 to build CERN.
Yeah, the machine itself cost around $2 billion basically to build it. The thing that we do out of it actually is, it's very simple. You take Einstein's equation, right? E equals mc squared. You flip things around a bit, and basically you obtain mass by smashing things together at extremely high energies. What does it mean to obtain mass? Basically, that release of energy creates spontaneously matter out of nothing, right? And that matter which gets created is usually subatomic particles. So the protons and neutrons you learned about in school, those ones are actually composed of even smaller particles, right? These are called subatomic particles. They're quarks, gluons, and so on, right? And the moment we smash these proton clouds together, the resulting stuff is usually these subatomic particles, right? And together with that collection of subatomic particles and the 4 energies, the 4 forces of the universe, we have gravity, electromagnetism, weak and strong nuclear force. We can explain everything in the universe. We can explain how you and me exist. We can explain all the phenomena that happen in the universe, how stars explode, how stars get created, etc. Right?
And so, do we have those answers yet, or are we still researching?
We have a lot of answers about. So we have something called the Standard Model, which is basically a set of equations which was theorized back in the 50s, 60s, which together they explain all of these processes, right? So everything that works on a fundamental, like subatomic level in the universe, every interaction that happens, that is explained through these 4 equations. And in 2012, what happened at CERN was basically we started the LHC in 2010 and gathered data from the collisions for about 2 years. Then in 2012, CMS and Atlas, they announced at the same time that they discovered the Higgs boson, which was the last missing piece of the Standard Model. And now, due to the fact that the Standard Model is complete, we know that this is the real representation of the world, right, in a mathematical sense, if you want. And now what we're doing, basically, we're measuring the masses of these particles. We're seeing if there's any kind of violation, right? So what we're looking now is like, why is everything made out of matter and not out of antimatter, for example?
So when you talk about the subatomic principles, right?
Yeah.
People who have been, last year there's this very famous movie, Oppenheimer, right?
Yeah.
And in the movie, they pit the protagonist, Oppenheimer, against, it's not against, but there seems to be some discord between him and world famous legend Einstein, right?
Yeah.
And Einstein talks almost dismissively about this subatomic world of Oppenheimer's, right? And that alludes to quantum physics, yeah.
Yeah.
And there seems to be like Einstein got so much right, but I think he missed the ball on some of that, right? He didn't quite agree.
Yeah, exactly. Because Einstein was generally looking at the way space and time bend due to the effect of gravity and everything like that, but he wasn't taking into account all these quantum effects, right? So quantum tunneling, quantum entanglement, and all that kind of stuff. This is important as well, and it's something that CERN is studying because we have a quantum computing initiative going on at CERN, but it's not directly tied to the things which are done by the accelerator, actually, right? So because the particles they get generated in a couple of milliseconds, they go away because the energy dissipates and they're unstable, right? So you cannot have quarks which are just flying loose in the universe. They usually need to be part of a proton or of a neutron and all that.
Well, so but that Higgs boson particle that you discovered and proved in 2012 seems to be the thing that confirmed the principles of quantum physics. Is that the idea?
Yes. So basically, it confirmed the fact that there is something which gives mass to everything in the universe, right?
Okay.
Before that, we didn't really know exactly what's the it's really hard to explain, basically, but the idea is we didn't know what gives mass to things. Why is one particle heavier than the other? Even maybe though some of them are physically they're smaller, they look smaller. Why are they heavier, right? And basically, what happens, the Higgs field is basically like a plane which gets vibrating, right? So it vibrates, and basically based on those vibrations, it kind of tells you whether a particle is heavier or not, right? So there's a field, and that field gives mass to everything, right?
So one slack vibrates a lot faster than, say, IRC or something like that. Is that the idea? Very heavy.
Exactly, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, is it known yet what would be necessary to consider these particles stable? That's a good question. I don't understand the question, but I like it.
So basically, stable means that you can take those particles and put them together to form something that we know is stable in the universe. So, for example, protons, right? Protons are made out of 3 quarks and glued together with these particles called gluons, right? So you take 2 up quarks, 1 down quark, you put them together, and then you glue them using the gluons, and then they stay very, 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 very well tied together. And the problem is that it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to actually to make these bonds exist again
consistently.
So basically what happened is when the universe got born, everything was like a heterogeneous soup of particles, right? And these were all subatomic particles. Then as time passed and things started to cool down, these particles started forming clumps together, right? And this is the strong nuclear force which kind of brought them together, and it's extremely hard to break that nuclear force. Nuclear explosions, they also come from breaking the bonds between things, but they're not at the subatomic level. You're just breaking apart atoms. You're not breaking apart protons, right? That we cannot do unless you fire them through a particle accelerator, and then the moment they hit each other, those bonds break, and then we create we get some new stuff off.
What is that? Yesterday we were talking about ripping the electrons off with the magnets.
Yes. So basically everything that is pushed through a particle accelerator, like the Large Hadron Collider, hadrons basically means something like ions usually, right? So if you remember a bit of chemistry, ions mean something negatively charged, right? So positively charged. So what happens, basically, you have a small bottle of hydrogen, kind of like this big, which is the source of all the protons that come in the LHC. That hydrogen gets stripped of electrons through a device called a duoplasmatron. So if you Google duoplasmatron, it's going to explain to you how it works. And basically what it does, it sucks all the electrons.
Maybe. If I were to read it, I would be more confused than when it started.
It sucks all the electrons from that hydrogen gas, and it pushes a stream of protons, pure protons, right? Because hydrogen is 1 proton, 1 electron. And you can accelerate those up to close to the speed of light.
Okay. And so all of this to say that that there's a lot of things happening very, very quickly in a very, very small space. How do you see any of this? Like, how do you've got all this machinery.
Yeah.
You've got 27 kilometers, but basically the thing that's actually happening, nobody can actually see with the naked eye.
Yeah.
Right. And you described it yesterday as being the size of a human hair, the beam.
Yes, exactly. So we have two beams which go clockwise and counterclockwise in the LHC. When we're ready, when we reach an energy level high enough, because the moment you're reaching 99.99% of the speed of light, you don't talk in speed anymore, you talk in energies, right? The energy is measured in electron volts. We can reach about 13.6 tera electron volts, right? So you need to put a lot of zeros after that. And basically what happens is those two beams, they go in opposite directions. When we're ready, every 25 nanoseconds, we switch the beams together. And in each of the 4 experiments, the collisions happen, right?
Wow.
These collisions, they generate the subatomic particles that I was talking about, energy, radiation, and all that. You can't be down there when the machine is running because you might die from the radiation levels.
Or turn into the Hulk. That's a possibility, right?
It's gamma rays, yeah, but unfortunately, it doesn't turn you into the Hulk.
Fine.
And
nobody's tried though, right?
yeah, no, nobody's tried. Nobody died in the LHC so far, which is.
I mean, I'm happy to hear that.
So basically, what we do then is we have huge onion-shaped detectors, right? So it's a huge 3D camera.
Yeah.
That takes 40 million photos a second because every 25 nanoseconds you have something happening, and you take each of these events, as we call them, and as the particles pass through the different layers of the detectors, they either get stuck there because their energy dissipates and then they just become part of the detector, right? But it's like subatomic particles. You don't scrape them off the wall after that, and on the outer layers, we detect the things which pass through everything, right? So we have muons, we have neutrinos, which are really hard to detect. And those things are hit by some more specialized systems on the outside of the onion. That is the detector, right? And then we have a data center and a server farm, actually, which rebuilds all of these processes into a nice 3D image that can be analyzed.
That's where, so the thing that you're conducting along that track is so small, but you have building-sized machines around it, first of all, to protect people, but also to capture it, to understand it.
Exactly.
And so how much data do you get? Where does it go when we're talking about, at some point, you get data from that process and it goes into computers.
Yeah.
How many computers? How big a data center? How much do you need Wi-Fi? Is there Slack involved? What kind of software is being used? Are you mining Bitcoin on that incredible GPU farm? What's going on?
Yeah, so in terms of what's going on, actually, you mentioned GPUs. That's actually a rather good point. Many of the software, which is written by physicists in order to... Yeah. Many of the things which are written mostly by physicists, actually. So experimental physicists are a weird bunch because they know data science, they know computer science and all that. So they do have a lot of software which was written years and years ago in order to reconstruct these events, as we call them, because particle accelerators have existed before the LHC as well. It's just...
this is just the coolest.
Yeah, exactly. So basically what happens, one big field of research is actually reconstructing all of these events using GPUs, because you can kind of individually look at each of those things and then put them together in a massive grid. So, the GPU is great for that. And lots of the software is written in C++.
Yeah.
Some of the older one you might find Fortran as well.
Fortran's cool.
Yeah. And basically what happens is once you reconstruct the initial event, you do some initial reconstruction, everything is shipped, because you cannot ship everything. You need to filter stuff using very specialized FPGAs at the hardware level. Mm-hmm. And then it's like saying, okay, this one passes, this one doesn't, right? And this happens at extremely high data rates, right?
Is that hardware?
Yes, it's hardware. It's it's FPGA based,
right.
And the rates are, I don't know, terabytes a second, basically. So basically what happens...
Too much for traditional data.
Exactly.
Software to handle it.
Exactly. So that's why it's done at the hardware level. So basically what we do then, we filter out the interesting events and then we send them forward. That saturates like a 10 gigabit connection on fiber.
Wow.
And then that data basically gets sent over all the way to our data center. The data center is not incredibly big. I mean, compared to standards from Google or Amazon or whatever, our maximum power is around 4 megawatts in the data center.
Oh, wow.
So it's not that big. And we store everything twice. We store it on tape and we store it on hard drives. Why do we store things on tape? Because it doesn't cost any money to keep it there, right? So you don't need to power it with electricity because it's just on a tape. If you ever need it, we have these fancy robots in the data center which move left and right. They pick up the cassettes, right, from the storage, and then they put them in the reader. And the reader is quite fast, but you need to read everything sequentially. So.
Right, a giant SAN.
Yeah.
I've dealt with those. I programmed those.
Oh.
Okay, so that's like offline. There's no cloud here, right? You're just doing your own data center.
Yeah, there are some experiments which use a bit of cloud resources, but basically everything, most of the stuff, like I would say 99% of the stuff that we do at CERN is stored in here, and we don't want to expose that data. We have an open data portal actually, so everything which gets produced by the LHC is public, and people, if they know how to read the format of the data, there's a special toolkit written in Python and C++ actually called root, and root is the thing that physicists use to analyze the LHC data, right? So
because this is a multilateral, not necessarily worldwide, but a lot of countries all around the world contribute to CERN.
Yeah, you can say it's worldwide almost. Yeah. So the collaborations have around 100-ish countries contributing.
Oh, there's like 200, so that's half of the planet being actively involved. Noticeably, America is not. Anyway, so you've got all this amazing stuff, and so as a result, everything is kind of open source. You just it belongs to the world. The world paid for it, and it belongs to everybody. Do you want to? Is that question interesting?
I don't know. Yeah, no.
Okay.
No.
So the data is available to everybody. You can download it. You can monitor it. People do all around the world, right?
Yeah.
This is a hub, but there's other spokes all around the planet.
Yeah.
People in all the other countries using it to inform their work and their research and their advances as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we have actually a grid. So basically what happens, we have a 3-tiered grid of data centers all around the world processing LHC data 24/7. So the problem is we cannot do the processing here at the data center for everything that we do, because processing 1 year of LHC data takes 1 year.
Yikes.
More or less, right? So basically what we do, we ship it. We have a huge job system. It's based on HT Condor, if you know about it. So it's like
like Beowulf or something?
No, it's basically like I don't know that one, but basically it's a grid system.
Yeah,
it's a big grid system with job submission and all that. So basically,
what about this one?
How much data is produced per reconstruction? So actually that's interesting. In terms of reconstructed data from the experiments, the answer is it depends. Each of the detectors, they produce a different amount of data based on the number of things which come out of the collision, right? What you see normally with with the LHC, we have something around the size of less than a megabyte, like a couple of kilobytes maybe, for things like Atlas and CMS and LHCb. However, there's Alice, right? And Alice looks at bless you.
Thank you.
Alice looks at much messier collisions, if you want. So 3 weeks per year, instead of accelerating just pure protons, we accelerate lead ions, right? And lead, if you look at the periodic table, it's quite big, right? It has a lot of bunches in it, right? So the moment that lead collides with another lead ion, it produces a very messy fireball, which looks exactly like the universe looked like 14 billion years ago. And the problem is the data size is enormous. So it's around 2-3 megabytes. It doesn't sound like a lot per event. So if you do 40 million of those per second, that leads to a lot, right?
Yeah.
We do have quite a lot of data because we're storing so the total amount of data that CERN has from experimental data, let's put it like that, is known to have passed 1 exabyte, right?
Okay, so a lot.
So a lot.
So people can download all that if they wanted to, if they have the network.
They can download most of it, yes. It needs to be curated and it needs to be put in like special collections, right? So you have a collection of LHC data from 2012, LHC data from whatever. If you come to the CERN shop, you can actually buy a cassette which contains at least one Higgs boson recording on it, right? So it's just you don't know how to read the format because it's proprietary. The tape one, at least, not the tape one. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so you mentioned Python and C++, naturally.
Yeah.
Is there any Java? Like, does Java have a chance to help at all in this high-speed world?
Yes. So there's actually, it's actually funny, but one of the first servlet implementations in the world was actually done at CERN.
Nice.
For a system that we're still using nowadays. It's called EDH. It's not as sexy as the LHC because it's in the administrative sector. EDH stands for Electronic Document Handling.
Right.
And basically, the idea was that CERN was one of the first organizations, probably in the world, to go paperless in terms of signing HR documents, signing leave requests, all of this kind of stuff. Actually, we have more than 70 types of documents actually available now, and we just recently hit 10 million documents completed, signed, and all of that in EDH. The system has been running for around 30 years. And initially, it was written in C++ with some Java, but it was like applets and everything.
Okay.
So like very old school stuff, yeah. And then actually we moved to to like the traditional client server model, right? And it's been maintained and used for the past 30 years or so. We have one of the oldest Oracle databases in the world as well, still actively being used.
You don't upgrade it?
We upgraded, but in the sense that the data there and the schemas and the continuity of the data, it's like you can find things there which were signed in 1992, and they're still there. So
that's a great database.
That brings some challenges, of course, which are hard to deal with. Sometimes you have a lot of technical debt as well that you need to go through, but
worth it.
The core code you can find. Well, you can't find commits, but you can find comments in the code, because since we moved to Git, we kind of lost some of the history, at least. Well, actually, when they moved from whatever they were using to CVS and then to Git and whatever.
Yeah, this happens.
The thing is, you can find comments in the code from the 90s written in Java code, right? Which are still running in production nowadays. So that's one of the amazing things that we have.
Is that open source?
It's not open source, no. In principle, things that we do are public, but EDH is so specific to CERN's needs that it was not open source.
Makes sense.
We do have a ton of open source projects.
You do or don't?
We do. So we have quite a large open source community.
Where do we go to find some of that?
So I think there's an official CERN GitHub account. Yeah, exactly.
Does that look right?
Yeah.
Paste that in here.
We open source a lot of the stuff that we're doing. But on
github.com/CERN as in Nancy.
Exactly. And then there's also some we do have some other side projects which are not hosted on the main CERN GitHub account.
Okay.
So these are like tomographic iterative GPU. I don't know. So we have a lot of experiments basically which open source their data. But one of the largest things which CERN produced and is still actively being used all around the world is Indico. You might have heard about Indico. Yeah. It's like a room conferencing software which is used by the UN. It's used by a lot of places on the planet. And actually, the link is getindico.io, I think.
Is this Java?
Yes. This is Python.
Oh, okay. Well,
but other interesting use cases of Java actually that we have are for the accelerator control systems. So we have something that basically controls and schedules and monitors all the runs which are happening inside the LHC. Many of those things are written in Java. They're generally full stack applications. The Beams department has a preference for Angular, so they use Angular on the front end. And yeah, it's Spring Boot most of the time, actually.
Imagine, Spring Boot. Well, that's a thing.
And then recently, I actually met some people from Alice, the experiment that I was talking about.
Right.
And they have, again, a job scheduling system. They actually prepare analysis for physicists. So the physicists, imagine them as kind of like data scientists. They go to a tool, right? And they want to schedule some analysis, which might take a very long time. So they build up this kind of pipeline. They call them trains. They have this analogy, whatever, with wagons and all that.
Right.
The point is, you have all of these trains being built together, and they're submitted to a job server which is running Spring Boot. So much of the let's say the backend stuff, which is responsible for scheduling, for monitoring, for all of that stuff,
workflow, that kind of stuff.
It's using Java in the backend.
Java's going to be big. You just watch. One day it's going to be very big. That's super cool. It sounds like a really pragmatic organization because again, you're doing something for which there is no precedent. This is just all. I love Python. I mean, I love Java too. Obviously, that's the thing I spend most of my time in is Java. But the language I can say I have the second most amount of experience in is Python. I've been using it since the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Since 1.5. And I just remember why did people use Python in the 90s? And I remember looking around the landscape and it's like, well, NASA's using it to go to space. ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, is using it to create. They're using it to create Star Wars, right? Google was using it to organize the world's data. These are companies that there's no like corporate product you can buy off the shelf that solve these problems. They had a mandate that was unique unto itself on the planet. And they chose Python. They could have chosen whatever they wanted. There was no golf game. Nobody played golf with the CTO of these organizations and said, we've got a shrink wrap thing you can buy for $10 million in consultants, It's just, we need to solve a problem, and they chose Python, and same here. You got Java as well, Spring Boot. They're just using if they're using it here, it must be interesting, because there's no precedent.
Yeah, it really depends on the current needs, like you said, right? So basically, sometimes for us, for example, so my group is completely Java shop, right? So we have some Python there here and there for gluing stuff.
Java 21 yet?
Java 17.
Actually, that's pretty good.
Java 17 so if you want to book a visit at CERN, all of the CERN booking software is behind the scenes. It's Spring Boot using Java 17. So
17 is pretty good. I'll take it. Actually, I was really gonna say like Java 7 or something.
We're going to go for Java 21 soon. It's just we were waiting for some people to provide us, because we have the IT department, which is responsible for some of the infrastructure stuff. So they act as our DevOps team, and we ask them nicely, hey, can you please provide us an image with Java 21, because everything is in Kubernetes and all that.
Right.
So
why not?
And they were working on it, so yeah, it should be fine. It's just we need to upgrade to the latest Spring Boot now, and we're at Spring Boot 3 for now. That's out of support, but it's also a year plus old. So but good on you. That's what you're doing good. You're keeping up. We're almost there.
That's awesome. That's awesome, actually. I was so worried you were going to say Java 8 and 2.7 or whatever. Like, don't do that. Please don't do that.
We do have some of that as well. Yeah.
We could have just cut the stream right there. We could have ended the feed before that. Well, still, amazing what you're all doing. I'm just, I'm in awe, truly. I told you before the stream, I get goosebumps just walking around here. I feel like these are the hallowed halls of, this is how we get to the stars. This place is, the world feels so petty and ugly sometimes, but then you come here and you realize we can do amazing things if we put our minds to it.
Exactly.
And this place engenders that spirit of community and collaboration. I'm privileged. I feel very lucky. Okay, let me see. I got some other questions here. You want to tackle any of these? Will the JDK be serverless? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, me neither. I think we can.
In movies, I see that people travel to space, live for ages and hundreds. Is that a fantasy or is it really? I don't know. Fingers crossed, we all get to space. Though,
we need to get to space for
the world's too small. It's beautiful, but it's, I believe, whatever Star Trek. It's a dream. It's ridiculous, obviously, but it starts with these little particles flying around. It starts with us understanding that stuff. So, I can't thank you enough. I really can't. Thank you so much for inviting me and for having us in this wonderful conference. And we're at Voxxed Days CERN. For those of you just joining, this is where we just came from Voxxed Days Ticino, where some of us, the speakers, went to Ticino and Lugano in another part of Switzerland, the Italian part of Switzerland. Here, we're more or less in the French part of Switzerland. And then there's lots of German parts. Are you from the German part of Switzerland? Or?
No, I'm actually originally from Romania. So Romania is a member state of CERN, and I got to join as well.
I'll be at Voxxed Days Bucharest.
All right, awesome.
Small world, right? And yeah, it's just thank you, Voxxed Days. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for inviting me.
And thanks everybody for hanging out. I hope you got something out. This is like, I wish you could all be here. This is one of the best. Good morning. Hello. Thanks for joining us. We're about to sign off, but keep your eyes on the channel. I'll be doing lots of live streams today, so it'll be fine. But now I've got to go run. I've got to give a presentation.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.